Hi everyone, this is Sugantha Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Dr.S.N.S. College of Arts and Science. This presentation is about C++ functions. Plus functions. A function is a set of statements that takes input, does some specific computation and produce an output. The idea is to put commonly or repeatedly done tasks together to make a function. So instead of writing the same code again and again for different inputs, we can call this function. In simple terms, a function is a block of code that runs when it is called. A function can pass data known as parameters into the functions. Functions are used to perform certain tasks and they are important for reusing the code. Defining the code once and it can be used a number of times. Creating a functions helps in reducing code redundancy. The functionality is performed at multiple places in the software. Then rather than writing the same code again and again, we can create a function and we can call it everywhere. This also helps in maintenance as we have to make changes in and only one place if we make changes to the functionality in the future. C++ provides some predefined functions such as main function, which is used to execute a code, but you can also create your own functions to perform certain actions. To create, often referred to as declare a function, specify the name of the function followed by the list of parameters. Here, my function is the name of the function. Void means the function does not have any return type. You will learn more about the returns values in the next chapter. Inside the function body, add code that defines what the function should do. Next is call by value and call by reference in C++. There are two methods to pass the data into the function in C language, that is call by value and the call by reference. There are two ways to pass the value to the function. If the original value is modified means it is called as call by value, but if it is modified means it is called by reference. Call by value in C++. In call by value method, the value of the actual parameter is copied into the formal parameters. In other words, we can say that the value of the variable is used in the function in the call by value method. In the call by value method, the original value is not modified. In the call by value, value being passed to the function is locally stored by the function parameter in the stack memory location. If you change the value of the function parameter, it is changed for the current function only. It will not change the value of the variable inside the caller method such as main. So this is an example for an illustration of call by value reference in C++. Next is call by reference in C++. In call by reference, the original value is modified because we pass the reference as an address only. Here the address of the value is passed to the function so that the actual and the formal arguments is going to share the same address space. Hence the value change inside the function is reflected inside as well as the outside the function. To understand the call by reference, you must have the basic knowledge of pointers. Let us try to understand the concept of call by value reference and C++ by the given example. Here we are going to swap the two values with the address of the variables. The value is swapped and the result is displayed to the user. Next is inline functions in C++. C++ provides inline function to reduce the function overhead. An inline function is a function that is expanded inline when it is called. When the inline functions is called, the whole code of the inline function gets inserted and substituted at the point of the inline function call. The substitution is performed by the C++ compiler at the compile time. An inline function may increase efficiency if it is small. Why inline functions are used means when the program executes the function call instructions, the CPU is going to store the memory address of the instruction following the function call, copies of the arguments of the function on the stack, and finally transfers the control to the specified function. The CPU is then going to execute the function code. It is going to store the function, return the value in a predefined memory location or a register, and returns the control to the calling function. This can now become an overhead if the execution time of the function is less rather than switching the time from the caller function to the called function. Inline function advantages: the function call overhead doesn't occur. It also saves the overhead of the push pop variables. It also saves the overhead of the return call from the function. When you inline a function, you may enable the compiler to perform context specific optimization techniques. An inline function may be very useful for embedded systems because inline can yield less code than the function called preamble and return. These are the few advantages of the inline function. The added variables from the inline function consume additional registers, and also the number of registers going to be used for the variables will also be increased. So if the function inlining variable number decreased drastically, then it would surely cause overhead to the register utilization. This is the difference between an inline function and a macro function. An inline function is defined by the inline keyword, whereas the macros are defined by the hash defined keyword. Though inline function, the class data members can be accessed, whereas macros cannot access the class data member variables. In case of an inline function, the program can be easily debugged, whereas the macros cannot be easily debugged. In case of inline, the arguments are evaluated only once, whereas in case of a macro, the arguments are evaluated every time when the macro is issued in the program. In C++, inline may be defined either inside the class or outside the class, whereas macro is a small time defined at the beginning of the program. In C++, the short length functions are automatically made the inline function, where macros is specifically defined. Next is inline is not widely used as macros, while macro is widely used. Inline is not used in computative programming, while macro is very much used in computative programming. Next is inline function is terminated by the curly braces at the end of the program, whereas a macro is terminated by a symbol terminated by a new line. Thank you.